Call to order the Board of Assessors meeting of Thursday, January 17th. It is 3:07. Do we have any public comment? I don't see anyone else here, so I'm assuming we don't. Anyone else recording other than Lake Cam? Okay. We have some minutes to approve.
We do have meeting minutes.
I got one. Thank you.
Folks are finished reviewing. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. To approve. Quick meeting, huh? My mind is.
A second.
I can't make that motion because I wasn't here.
Okay, well, I will make the motion. John seconded the motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, Harold, RRG's report and updates. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so
John, can you initial that? So we can get that over with?
we do have a budget to review, and we'll come back to that in a minute. I just wanted to update you on a few matters that even appear on the meeting minutes. With respect to our beginning of the year mailings, personal properties out the door, 3 ABCs out the door, and I'm pulling together our annual income and expense survey. I hope to get that out shortly. Abatement filings to date, we have essentially 9. 3 of them are personal property. 3 are administrative abatements on properties that have burned. And so, on behalf of the taxpayer, we go ahead and complete, I had Norman complete the abatement applications. So really, on the real estate end, we only have 3 regular abatements. And I've reviewed those, not bringing them to you tonight, but one of them is a taxpayer who has a fair amount of his acreage is wetlands and would like that reflected. Only one is questioning the value.
Wow, that's not
So-
bad for halfway through January.
Yeah, well into the month, and of course we know that the last 2 or 3 days usually brings in.
Yeah, we usually get our commercial regulars, commercial property.
But this time,
But I will
this
say,
time last year
historically, we had more than,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, last year we had a lot.
What?
but even previously, we've always had more than.
Yeah.
So
Six.
it's a
Six.
good sign. We're
So even in terms of inquiries, there haven't been that many calls.
we're assessing properties
so-
correctly. What do you even question us for?
Well, it is encouraging, and I like the trend. And we did take values up a bit this year. So
Yep.
so.
Market.
Good.
Market dictates that, not us.
I wanted to report on Dick Finnegan. I haven't brought Dick in large part because of the low abatement numbers. I don't want to send him here to work on abatements until we have something for him to actually do. But he's
So you
at
don't want to
the
spend money unnecessarily?
he's at the ready as soon as I tell him to.
You're being cheap, come
I'm
on,
being
keep the economy going, people
Yeah.
need work. No, that's good, so.
Dick is helping me out in Millbury, and then we have an assignment to cover the assessor's office in Uxbridge. Joan Navarro, the assessor there, is going out on surgery. He'll be out for several months, so he'll be at some point stepping in to help with Lakeville.
Okay.
That being said, I have had some other communities up and down 495 that are talking to us, so And I've actually interviewed a really great person that also lives on the 495 belt down towards this neck of the woods. A person that I can't name at this point, but I think holds some promise. So
Just remember, just because you get someone else doesn't mean you can't, we don't want you here.
well, that's true. You know, I have a love affair with Lakeville. Linda and Norma take such good care of me that I got
Just don't forget us.
Or we'll call you.
Or, well, I certainly don't mind that.
All right, what else we
I
got?
do want to report that the solar project, Crooked Lane, I have not heard back from the owner of that property. We have a couple of outstanding issues that we're going to have to come to terms with. One is the rollback taxes on what was chapter land. Those have not been assessed and paid. The project, as I think all of you know, is up and running.
Okay, so what's the next step, or what's the holdup?
So I'm going to be asking our chapter specialist to send, compute the rollback and notify the owner that they owe some taxes. We also have potentially, this kind of goes back to the earlier discussions we had around pilot agreements. Absent a pilot agreement, we have the right and obligation to issue a supplemental tax bill. So I want to make that happen here in the next few weeks as well.
Should we notify the owner that we
Yes.
haven't heard anything, so just a heads up, we're moving forward, and you're gonna be getting a...
That's the game plan. And then I mentioned that we have, on the cartographic contract at our last meeting, you wanted me to check in with Rita about the signing of the contract, and she said typically contracts over 10,000, the selectmen like to sign on those. But she did, I did discuss with her the whole procurement aspect, because any contract over $10,000 needs to go through regular procurement processes. However, I believe that Cartographic Associates is on the state bid list, and so that being said, one of my problems is that there are different companies that do pieces of what we need to have done. Cartographic Associates, to the best of my knowledge, brings the whole package together. The map maintenance, the conversion to an ArcInfo coverage, the release of that information by a GIS. And so I can get quotes from different vendors for different pieces of that. Like People GIS, for example, they do the GIS work, but not the map update work. And Polaris, our past map maintenance contractor, they do the map updates, but they don't do GIS. So
can we require that one company do it all? So we're not dealing with all different vendors?
yeah, we have that right, and I think it's the smart way to go. Dealing with multiple vendors on something as important as mapping and GIS, all of a sudden you've got this orchestration piece that we'd have to negotiate. I'd rather just deal with one proven vendor who Cartographic Associates has done just a superb job. All the towns in the area are using them. Lakeville needs to move forward with that. So I'm working through the procurement process, but the selectmen will ultimately need to sign the contract.
I'm sure they'll look for recommendation from us, so once we go through the procurement process, I mean, it sounds like if they're on the state-approved bid list, then that would take care of the whole procurement process. Or do we, I don't think we would have to if they're on the bid list, right?
So what I understand from Rita, I'm not a procurement person, but she says I need to contact Combis. I think that's the state agency that handles the state bid list. I need to call them, register the purchase with them, get their approval, and then they message the town that everything's fine with them to use them cartographics as a vendor.
So walk me through the timeline. Do we want to get that taken care of first?
Yes.
And have us formally approve them as a vendor and make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Selectmen can...
Oh,
execute the
good
project?
point. I'd love to have your endorsement at the front end.
So you want to do that
Yes.
before we...
Yeah, that'd be
That's why
nice.
I was asking the
I hate to go
timeline,
through all
so-
the
Yeah, and then have to wait
machinations
on
without.
us, right. Well, that's why I was saying, so if they're on the list, then we shouldn't have to go like through a bid.
Combis will tell us what we have to do, but
Okay.
in all likelihood,
Yes, to your point, if Combi says they're on the
Yeah.
list, they're good, we have to go through that process. But I think what you'd like to do, I think for her to submit to Combi, they need to say, listen, we have a vendor we want to use that has been recommended. Is it okay for us to use them without going through the procurement process?
Right.
They say yay or nay. If we recommend it, they say yay, then the Board of Selectmen gets it put in front of them.
Right. Now, if they say nay, then can we require
Well, then-
whoever, as part of the bid, that we want one company to do everything, which could possibly, because we would like to work with these people, correct?
right. And the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
But I'd still have to go out and make some reasonable effort to get bids.
Right, sure, yeah.
What's the contract price that they're...
Because there's a big conversion piece to this.
I remember you telling to us last time about that.
Yeah, because our maps currently reside as AutoCAD files, and at the root of any GIS is a file called an ARC info parcel coverage, or even also known as a Esri shape file. We've got to convert the data from AutoCAD into ARC info, then all the maps will be updated through ARC info, not AutoCAD. Barring that, actually in the not so distant past, what they would do is update the maps in AutoCAD and then run a conversion of the AutoCAD files to an ARC info coverage, but that's a very imperfect conversion. So every year they're spending hours making sure that everything converted and came across. Having everything in an ARC info coverage from the get-go means they can do all of the map updates within that environment, and there's no conversion that has to take place. So long-term, it costs us
Can I
less.
just ask, maybe I should know the answer, but are they all the same changes, different, what kinds of changes are we talking about?
So map changes, which we're 2 years behind now, we got everything queued up
Yeah,
in two big piles, and these would be all of the new subdivisions, land divisions, and then even corrective memos. So anytime I run across an error in the map, I'll write
You
up
write
something
it up.
and throw it in the bucket for the update.
yeah, so 2 years is a lot of changes.
Yes.
So we really need to get on
The
this.
total packet we sent to them was about that thick, so,
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, 2 years a lot.
So, back to the pricing, just because I recall, we did go through this now, but obviously, I think you
Yeah,
sent
I
out
wasn't
anyways.
here, yeah.
Just for Leah's benefit.
Yeah.
so we can-
That's the, oops, I forgot about the RC.
Don't worry, I wasn't gonna let you forget.
$19,800 is the total to take care of the 2 years of, actually, this takes care of 2 years of updates plus the next 2 years of updates, plus the conversion to the ARC info coverage. So 19,800 divided by 3, because that would be paid out over 3 years, so call that 6,600, something like that.
Is Is that one contract, or is it three?
One contract.
Okay, so that's why it's over 10,000, because of
For-
the years.
$19,000.
19.8,
Okay.
yeah.
And whoever we use, well, let me ask you this, who's doing our map maintenance now with Polaris?
Polaris.
Would they be charging us the same amount to
They're-
update,
they're-
or is there an additional charge because of the conversion aspect of it?
Their actual, looking back, their actual annual contract was more than what it will ultimately be with Cartographic Associates.
Okay.
I forgot the exact amount, but the conversion piece of this, if you take the 19,800, the conversion piece is roughly $12,000. So you've got 12, what would that be? 6,000.
Separate difference, you mean?
So it comes to about roughly $3,000 a year to do the map updates and roll out the GIS. And I think we were paying something approaching 5 to Polaris.
Anyone have any additional questions? I think there's copies there for Joyce, right?
No,
If you want to flip that, there's copies there. There's
Everyone has a
3
copy of
copies.
that.
Oh, that's right.
I'm just trying to figure out what kind of motion to actually make.
I think really just an endorsement.
Recommendation.
Yeah.
Would anybody, I'll entertain a motion to recommend us enter into a contract with CAI Tech upon approval as being an approved state bid entity.
Yeah, second. I'll entertain that, I'll make that
Make that
motion.
motion. We got a second there, Mr. Pink?
I'll second that, yeah.
Any further discussion or questions for Gerald? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So you'll keep us updated on
Yes.
the return aspect and when it's going to be submitted to the selectmen. All right, back to the RRC proposal.
RRC, so we have our RRC has done our personal property work in the past several years. They have presented us with a FY 2020 proposal, and it's not actually a contract, it's simply a quotation, and this would be followed up with a contract. They're simply inquiring whether it's our pleasure to continue
On
and
with
do
that.
that work.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, that there really isn't a whole lot of other choices anyways, right?
There is actually none presently. I get calls all the time. How about you guys, RG, would you be willing?
Yeah.
I don't, we have a personal property person on staff, but I'm not looking to build a business around
You're
personal
not
property.
looking to build that segment of your business?
Yeah.
I apologize, you may have said it. Is the contract price?
$5,000.
Same as
It's the
it's been.
same as it has been. For that $5,000, they process all the forms of list, of which we have several hundred. They come for a couple of weeks, and they drive up and down the byways of Lakeville, look for new businesses. Where they see a new business, they go in, inventory the personal property. I think it's money well spent.
I have a question, and not, I mean, I guess it's specific to them because they do it right now for us. But where do they come, how do they come up with their personal property value? I mean, a lot of businesses, let's face it, they don't return
The form?
the form, so,
So built into their system is a library, if you will, of personal property items. And so that library gives them an original cost. They ascertain the approximate age of the asset, and then based on a depreciation schedule, depreciate that item.
but what do they do when they don't have, in other words, you have a business that's never responded, or, you know, they they've never had the opportunity, do they go in and say, listen, it's a accounting firm and we'll assume every accounting firm at least has $5,000 worth of.
So they have default values for a business? Yeah.
So that's where they come up with.
Yeah.
And obviously the business owner has the opportunity to
Right.
debate it if they feel.
Well,
They could provide the information, but if they don't, then they get taxed.
As a matter of
Now-
policy, we won't grant an abatement unless they produce that information for us.
Now,
No, I get it, but my point is they always have the opportunity to.
aren't there certain companies that are exempt from paying personal property?
So Massachusetts has some of the most convoluted personal property
Of course.
laws around. When we look at what's taxable and not, we start with the business entity because first, manufacturing class corporations are largely exempt from local personal property taxes on everything but poles, lines, and conduits, which covers your public utilities, which are manufacturing class companies, at least deemed so by the DOR. Corporations, depends on the type of corporation. If you're just a run-of-the-mill business corporation, certain assets are taxable, certain are exempt, and I'll not bore you with the details, but there are, business class corporations, any equipment that's used in an accounting, administrative, or marketing function is exempt. Everything else is taxable. Take a grocery store. All the front-end equipment, the cash registers and all of that, that's an accounting function. That's exempt. You go back to the meat department, all the slicers and all that equipment is taxable.
But you can't do your job without those items. You can't have a meat department without a slicer.
So, in a grocery store, and I pick on grocery stores because it's a mixed bag, some of their assets are exempt, some of them are taxable. And
So if you're in a professional business, I mean, you can make the argument that everything is used for an accounting function.
so take,
If
shall
you're
I?
an accountant's office,
I was gonna pick on banks, we could pick on insurance companies, but I'll pick on
insurance
banks.
agencies, I want to know if I'm, good stuff I shouldn't be paying taxes on.
Yeah, okay, so what might you have in an insurance office? Desks, computers, file cabinets, all
Tables.
potentially,
Furniture.
depending upon the,
Liquor.
Old
The-
school insurance companies and agencies have file cabinets, we don't have them on file
so
cabinets.
depending upon the assessor's interpretation of the statute, and you're hearing just my interpretation, I would say those are largely marketing and accounting related functions. Accounting-like functions, and I would deem those assets as exempt. However, that $500 coffee maker in the employee's lunchroom, that on the other
Well,
hand.
the $25 one, we got an Ocean State job lot, talking about donuts.
But, okay, so that
So it's very, it could be interpreted pretty liberally then.
very
A
subjectively.
lot of arguments between assessors and taxpayers about this.
Well, through the years of owning the dry cleaning business, we heard every excuse from, well, that's a luxury item, to that's not or that's necessary, and that's not. Perfect example is, in the dry cleaning business, you can have just racks where you hang the clothes as they're waiting to be picked up, or you can have a motorized conveyor. And we were always taxed on the motorized conveyor, but never anything else. And they also wanted to tax us on sewing machines because they said it was a luxury item. And I'm like, versus what? Hand sewing everything?
But it may have
So-
been somebody's label for that. I would never call it a luxury item, but.
Right, but
it would
see,
be-
that's where,
If you're
you
a
know.
corporation, I would say those sewing machines are probably taxable. It's equipment that, to my knowledge, doesn't do anything that's marketing or accounting or, what was that, managerial, administrative, and so I'd be looking to see those on the form of list.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Well, I guess
Probably
it's-
bores to death.
Well, because I know last year we did get at least one application for an abatement that was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Complete in listing all the assets and, stuff that was no longer there versus what, and someone spent a lot of time doing, a business owner spent a lot of time doing that. So I'd like to really be able to give someone like that a good answer as to why, and I know that that one was resolved, fine, the person, we agreed that, yes, some of the things should be, should come off, but, he still had to go through the abatement process, so it's just nice to be able to explain to people other than Massachusetts laws are pretty convoluted, which I'm sure people believe.
For the viewing public, just to round out the discussion, you also have a class of business that isn't corporate. We would call these individuals or sole proprietors. And in that scenario, basically everything you use in the conduct of your business is taxable.
Whether it's marketing, accounting,
Doesn't
or
matter.
administrative.
It's all
Well,
taxable, including inventory for sale.
So now that we're faced with, like the marijuana facility there, it's manufacturing, so technically they shouldn't be.
Only if the DOR in Boston deems them a manufacturing class corporation.
But then, if they have a retail end of it, does that change?
If they're one entity and DOR declares them a manufacturing class, doesn't matter what the complexion of that business is.
But that's up to DOR,
Yeah.
not us.
Right, the entity gets that designation, and then in that scenario, it would all be exempt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So having said that, I guess we just need a motion to, well, do we need a motion or do we just need to give you direction? I think we just need to give you
Just
direction.
direction
Yeah,
to-
have them get us a contract.
Yeah.
So we can
Yeah. Yeah,
Talk about-
just, yeah.
recommending selectmen approval, assuming that has to go through them as well.
I mean, because certain people's second homes get personal property taxes too, correct? Your primary home doesn't, but, and once again, some people really do fill out those forms pretty completely, so,
So summer homes operate a little differently. We base the personal property tax on the percentage of the residential building value. So I believe we're using 3%. So if your second home building value is $100,000, your personal property valuation would be $3,000.
and that's the valuation.
Right.
So then we've determined the
So
tax from
DOR
there.
allows us two methods to establish the value of personal property within a second home.
Yeah,
The percentage of building value, easiest to implement. We have to prove that up with every reval. We have to do an analysis that gets us to the 3% or 5% or whatever we use. The secondary method is to require all second homeowners to annually file a declaration listing and detailing all of their assets.
yeah, which I don't think is really
It's-
happening.
It's a challenge getting that out
Right.
of all the second homeowners, so, and a lot of work for not a whole lot of money.
Money, right, because at $3,000 valuation, what's the tax bill?
Right.
$40 maybe? Did I do that math right?
Yeah, and
It's under
actually,
100.
Yeah.
most end up, because we implemented that.
Right, the threshold.
Threshold, most of them end up going exempt anyway.
Right,
In fact, I don't remember, but I think there's only like 2 or 3 second homeowners that are actually getting a personal property bill.
no, but there is some second homes along, once again, the lake that, are becoming substantial properties, so,
So So I have your go-ahead on that.
Yep.
Yes.
And, let's see, old business.
So, continuing in old business, boat excise, we still don't have a functioning module. You want to talk to that, Linda?
The module's still not up and running, so we got the bill last September, October, so it's sitting waiting. But Randy did say it came over and he found like different file formats inside, and he did say that he could actually, if he got paid, he could actually transpose it when it's ready to be downloaded. He can actually figure out to download it into Unis, because
Okay.
it came in 3 different files.
He didn't
So-
say how much it would
No.
cost to write a program to do that, though.
But he can make it work.
He
and
can do
He
that.
can make it work
He can make it work
when it's
so
up and
that
running.
we don't
so-
have to have what Lake Deputy did last year.
To type it in, yeah,
Type it all
so,
in,
but he
so-
can actually do something to make it transfer over.
Can we give a general idea from him how much that would be? I mean, if he can do it for a
Okay.
reasonable amount, I think it makes more sense to have him do it than have someone sit there and do it manually.
Right, key it in, because it took her, what,
For a while.
like 3 weeks?
Yeah, a few weeks. yeah.
Almost.
That's all she did.
And for you to do it, if you're on your system, you can't
I can't do anything else.
anything else, so
Just
we
that.
can't like freeze you in
That's all
place.
I did.
Right, because you can't, I mean, while you're working on that, you can't do anything else, you can't file any, do any vehicle stuff or, okay. I mean, I don't know how much writing a program like that costs, but,
All you gotta do is ask him, we'll find out.
yeah.
But it'll probably take me longer because I have phones and
Right.
people and, okay, I'll ask him. But right now it's still not up and running anyway.
Right, okay. Yeah, we'll, if you can get that information. Decide how to handle it.
Next on my list is the annual budget for the assessor's office. I don't know if you've received these. And I'm just realizing I forgot to print out.
I think I CC'd everybody on this one forward.
Yep, he asked me to print it, so this copy for everyone. So we packet.
I thought I had printed out copies of what
Yeah, this is what you had.
Uh.
On the back.
On the back, okay, right?
Yeah,
Well,
this is the blank
with
one.
the entries.
This is the blank one that came over.
Oh,
This is
okay.
what you did.
So you do
Yellow
have
one.
what
Yeah,
I-
It's on the back.
Yeah.
very last
Okay,
one.
I took a first stab at the budget, and obviously you have the final say on any of this. So I'll start with the assessor stipend. If you want to do something different there, now's your opportunity. You'll see under assessment specialist, that's Norman's position, and I took the pay matrix.
I was just gonna say, those are a function of,
The pay matrix,
Yeah.
yeah. So hopefully I've done my math properly.
you know what the good news is? When we submit this, let us know if you did.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I'm sure. So I was a little confused about hourly wages and longevity, because there's a longevity calculation that I think I've already dealt with and reflected in Norman's proposed salary.
Well, I mean, once again, I think they'll
Yeah.
look at that and.
Yeah, I'm less worried about that, because again, that's a function of a matrix, it has to do with union and whatnot, so I wouldn't spend a ton of time focusing on those two lines.
Yeah.
Everything else is really where we're gonna,
So if you back out roughly $3,600, which is the longevity piece, you probably get to just a very modest increase in his actual wage. Of course, a lot of those expenses we used to incur over at the other building, those have disappeared. And then I've pretty much flatlined everything else.
other than
So.
the map, but that has to do with the,
Right.
As long as we flatline the other stuff, can we beef up the education and training?
we can do anything you
I think
desire.
there's a few things that we could look at as a board.
You tell me what you'd like to have changed.
Well, for example, Linda, I'm gonna use you as my example.
Okay.
Let's say we wanted to send Linda to a week-long schooling at UMass Amherst in the summer. You know how they do all the assessing stuff out there? I would think she wouldn't have to pay for her own hotel, correct?
Right.
So then how much would we have to pay? I can't even remember, we have to pay for the course 101, correct?
Yeah, we pay for, let me make a suggestion. I get where you're going.
Yeah,
They said they wanted to sit by the 14th. 14th's come and gone, and trust me, I don't think any other departments have theirs in. Maybe what we can do is charge Harald with putting together some training recommendations for staff that after you talk with staff.
I would like to
I-
also
I
go to
agree.
school in the summer. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I don't know if I would want to pay for my own hotel or not. I don't know. Linda and I could be roommates, who knows? But, you know, but I think there's a lot of really good things out there. I know that, you know, even Norm is good at what he does, but I think there's a lot of really good training stuff out there that even board members could benefit from.
So let me talk a little bit about a second alternative.
Yep.
We're,
Your program.
so I had a meeting.
Good hotels in Leominster?
Maybe not even a need, because most of our training rolls out in the day-long format.
Crown Plaza?
Yeah. Bermuda, wherever, I don't know, but, yeah, there we go, there we go.
Only gonna pay for the flight. Accommodations are taken care of.
It's all free after that. I had a meeting several months ago with MAAO, and one of the topics we talked about is this whole question of training. MAAO is moving towards not providing their own training, but handling their theoretical training through the IAAO Mass Chapter. The IAAO Mass Chapter is the Massachusetts, actually it's the New England chapter of the International Association, and they tend to bring in the best instructors around the country on those theoretical type courses. In my discussions with them, I said, you know, the theoretical piece is great, but it doesn't teach you how to, at the desk level in front of a computer, how to do
Right.
anything truly useful. What we're talking about is a marriage of courses that we're going to be offering in our training room that are more practical in nature. So, for example, we've got a class that we're going to be developing around title research. Day-long course, start with the nuts and bolts of reading a legal description, following a meets and bounds, doing what John probably does every day, you know, tracking ownership, researching ownership back, trying to identify, but basically an intensive class where the participant is actually in front of a computer solving some actual case study problems. It's that kind of practical training that I think would be far more beneficial for the Norms and Lindas, and wouldn't have to be require a commitment to go to UMass Amherst for a week.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, using that as an example, because they do other classes. They have their winter college, they have, you know.
I think a lot of
Just-
those tend to be, frankly, courses that might be of more interest to board members. than staff. They tend to be,
Yep.
just my opinion, but because of the relationship, contractual relationship we have, the training that Linda and Norman could avail themselves of has no cost, short of the mileage and maybe something to cover lunch to come up to Leominster. Now, Leominster may seem like the other end of the world to my colleagues.
You have to fly there, or?
I've driven all over for soccer.
But, I don't know, your impression, maybe you'd like to go to Amherst for a week.
Why don't we,
I mean, we can work on the details later. In general, I'd just like to see a little bit more money go into education, just because I think it's, even for board members, valuable.
Well,
does anybody know off the top of their head what those mass courses
You know what, I think the cost for the courses is
relative.
not,
It's
it's
the lodging.
the lodging that, we would have to, and, it's a long ride, so you
You're
can't.
probably, a week at Amherst is probably gonna set the town back to the tune of $700 to $800 just for the lodging.
Just for the
and
lodging.
Mileage and meals and that, plus probably $200 for the course.
Yeah, it's the course isn't the big hit, the course is, it's the lodging that, And I know they do get some kind of discount, but it's not really much of a discount.
So if you wanna put a number in, what do we put in?
2,000.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay. Any other changes that,
Is something like the CAI contract there reflected in here somewhere?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
the,
right above education,
The
6,600.
big one,
Ah,
the one
okay.
that we spent 2,800 on. Or we budgeted 2,800 this year, we
Yeah.
went up to 6,600, so.
So before that education change, we're looking at a 1.9% increase in the office budget, which is pretty modest.
And that's assuming that the numbers, staff positions, salaries are correct.
Yeah,
Um,
seem pretty light.
Let me ask you this, that's 6,600. Here's the question that's going to come. It was 2,900 actual in 16. It was 0 in 17, 0 in 18. We budgeted 2,800 in 19. We're jumping to 6,600. And I just want to clarify, is that a function of we haven't done anything with it? So,
There's the catch-up, the conversion, there's also the implementation of GIS all rolled up in that $19,800 figure divided by 3. So yes, at some point, somebody's going to ask the question.
if we had been doing this right along, would that 6,600 number be different, or will we still be paying for the conversion because it's going to a new system anyways?
If we did nothing at all, we would be just doing our map maintenance, but
No, I'm saying, let's say we had been doing the update.
The maintenance all along.
And we had 2017, I was just picking arbitrary figures, and 2,500 in 18, and we were gonna spend the 2,800 in 19, would that 6,600 change, or would it still be 6,600, because it's irrelevant that we've been entering the changes as we've gone along, we'd still have to pay for conversion, because it's a new system.
right.
So it's not like we're playing catch-up. We are playing catch-up, but we would have had to pay the 6,600 whether we were going along
Correct me
anyway.
if I'm
Right.
wrong, but overall, if we had 2015 in here to look at, I think our budget is still probably,
Oh, this budget dwarfs it. I get it.
Okay.
But unfortunately,
so if
no
we
one's
have to
gonna look back to
take,
15.
yeah, but if we have to take, no, but I know what you're saying. basically, I think it would change the totals of 2017 and 2018 and increase those totals. So it wouldn't look like,
No, it wouldn't, but keep in mind, Leah, we're comparing the 1.91% increase to the current year's budget, which did have 2,800 in it, so.
right.
That's, we had,
It'd be all that much less if we didn't.
Have we spent any of this 2,800?
probably not.
No.
Probably not.
So the increases, when the actual comes out, the increase is gonna be more than 1.91%.
So my sense is that we have reserves in other parts of the budget, and I'm thinking the line 12,000 for professional reval services. Actually, one thought I had was that we just pay for those conversion costs out of that budget and be done with it, and then just have a lower.
That would be better. Now, the only question I have is, we had an actual in 18 for the professional reval services of $11,000. So even though we're budgeted for 12 this year.
What would that have been?
I missed that, I'm sorry.
In 17, it was, if you go down to the second section,
Wait
1,
a
2,
second.
3, 4, 5, 6, the seventh one down there,
Mhm.
professional and reval,
Yep,
are all suggesting that 12,000's high, and that we could probably take some of the money for the conversion out of that. But I'm
Yep.
pointing out, we actually spent 11,000 on it
Right,
last year.
last year.
8,300 the year before, so I don't know how much.
I'm sorry, my eyes draw, RRC would come out of that
Okay.
figure. It's actually 2 down, computer and GIS services. We have 10,000 that's in the budget.
And we've spent almost 10,000 the prior 2 years, though.
Oh, wait a second, I'm sorry, our vision contract comes out of that. Okay, my apologies.
so vision comes out of the
Computer and GIS services.
GIS.
Never
I mean,
mind.
we've done a good job at making sure that we don't have,
No, I
Extra
think the
money,
assessor's
so-
office right now is streamlined. I think we're,
the question's gonna be, what's the value in converting to C8
C8, right.
versus?
We're gonna have to justify that.
Versus continuing along the way we're going now. Now, we can't literally continue along the way we're going, because although we have 2,800 budget, we haven't spent anything, so.
Yeah, and we're behind 2 years.
So this is really getting us to that GIS implementation. We are the only community, virtually the only community in this part of the state that doesn't have an up and running GIS. It's a tool that in most communities is just, everybody wonders how we operate without it, because it's just,
John, what do you think? This is your area of expertise, sir.
What, having GIS system? Yeah, I mean, well, I use it in other towns.
I mean, are we that far out of whack with everyone else? I mean, I'm not that I'm.
I just know
We're
our
all-
program is not good. It's doesn't function well in the first place. Never mind not having much information,
So it's valuable enough that we really need to implement it.
and truly, it isn't just for municipal purposes. The whole world is looking for those GIS resources, engineers, appraisers, realtors, everybody.
So we're going to end up providing a better level of service to
Yes.
the end user, the taxpayer, the folks who are doing things on behalf of the taxpayer. And
For us, even in the assessor's office, it's a huge tool. Yeah, I mean, I use GIS in all the other communities all the time.
Now, how does it overlap with other areas of the town, or does it?
Overlap. So like DPW is gonna be, they're clamoring for us to have an up
So-
and running GIS.
This is
So-
benefit of the departments.
It's gonna benefit other departments, so it might just be
Police,
that we,
fire.
right, have to take, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. So.
Did
I
they have to
mean-
do anything on their end? Or once we spend this money, everybody has access to it?
We're laying the foundation. Other departments are going to build on that foundation so that when you look at some of the other communities that we
Do
operate
we
in.
have to, I'm sorry to cut you off, but do we have, is our department the one that lays the foundation for
Yes,
this? If
we
we don't
lay the
do this,
foundation.
everyone else is at a stop.
So the police
Exactly.
department can't say, oh, we're gonna do this, and the assessors can follow suit. It goes the other way around. The assessors have to lead the.
What happens is we get a much lesser product because police are not oriented towards property and real estate and property
Right.
boundaries
Okay.
and all of that.
So once we do this, then everyone else can use their portion of it, let's say.
Right. So, for example, DPW will want to have a layer showing all of their infrastructure, water lines, sewer lines, all of
Fire
that.
hydrants.
Fire hydrants, all of that can now be built
Into
into the
it.
GIS. So, if you let, like DPW take the lead, which in some communities they've tried, you get their infrastructure, but it's not related to properties and.
Right,
and-
right. It doesn't do
and
the
it-
assessors
it-
any
it-
good.
It loses,
Right.
even for DPW, it loses value because it's not relating that infrastructure to actual properties.
It's
So-
just showing lines running
Yes.
randomly on a piece of paper.
So
Right.
I mean, just to put it selfishly, our budget takes the hit, but everyone else benefits from this.
Right. In my view, it has to flow from the assessor. We're the keepers of the maps, the real estate infrastructure.
The property records people.
Right.
Yeah, it all starts there.
Okay, you've sold me. I just wanted to get a good understanding because I know the question's gonna.
Right, the
why
question's
is
gonna
that-
be, right, how do you
gonna
go
triple?
from $2,800 to, whatever, $6,500 a year? You know, how do you justify that change? Well, this is how, and this is why it's necessary, so.
All right, so can you do three things, I guess? Confirm the staff numbers.
Well, I think when it gets submitted, it'll be confirmed for us. I've confirmed the numbers, checked
Okay,
them.
all right. So we'll keep the 66 there. We'll bump the training education to 2,000. And then, resend it back to us and I'll get a copy to the selectman's office. They'll clean, I don't say they'll clean it up, but like you said,
Yeah, they'll check
anything
all
that
that.
needs, anything that they have to adjust, they'll adjust on their end on salaries. Nope, everything else looks good, thank you. Any other questions on the budget?
John's on the last page.
Looking for the one with the, keep going.
Keep going.
What's that?
Oh, you
He's
know.
not looking at the one with the yellow sheet.
It's the last page right here. The front page had the two, just the last 2 years of, but there you go. So this is the one that,
Make a note to myself here. Thanks, and submit.
cracks me up how little that car costs us every year.
Not really going.
What year is it again, the car?
I forget, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's been around for a
Well,
while.
we just had two major stuffs, not tire rod, I think, put on it.
Oh, really?
And something else, like around $400 total work.
assuming getting those adjustments made and getting it out to us.
I've got it on my agenda for tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I just want to get it.
Actually, I'll just stop back at the office.
No, that's fine, it doesn't, as long as it's in next week, trust me, I don't think they're getting overwhelmed with their budgets. Don't get me wrong, but that's my guess.
Honestly, ours is probably one of the least complicated, so anytime they get it, it's not like, you know,
Yeah, some-
getting the police department or something like that. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have updated maps when the new police department?
Do we have any other business, old or new? The board members aren't reacting, so I guess that's up to you, Harold.
No, I don't have anything.
Nothing.
Actually, as long as we're talking about new business, we typically only meet once a month. Last year, we had a lot of abatements. I don't know if we want to schedule an extra, and if we don't need it, instead of trying to last minute schedule a meeting, or do you want to wait and see how many abatements come in?
We are here the third Thursday of every month, so.
I think that'd be
Yeah,
really
why don't-
enough.
Yeah, why don't we do that? But I get your point.
Because last year, we were scrambling to get in an extra
If all of a
couple of
sudden we
days.
get like a barrage of them coming in, the last couple of days and
Mhm.
jack
Let's
it up, we can circulate.
try
it,
to
you know,
put an extra-
coordinate an extra meeting on, but
Sure.
if it's a reasonable amount, then,
Right.
yeah. Well, we had a couple of, at least one.
Yeah, no, we had some
One last year,
difficulties.
so-
We had, a couple of difficult ones that took a
Right.
lot of, a lot of site visits, this, that, so,
Yeah, okay.
I guess, I know we all check in frequently with the office, but maybe, speaking of the office, February 1st is a Friday, and I had offered that I could help Norm or abatement, any last minute abatements that might come in, but I'm not gonna be here now, so, but
Doesn't look like
he,
it's gonna be an issue anyway.
yeah, well, I just hate to have someone come in
He said he was
and,
gonna stay till 5.
okay. So if he's gonna, as long as he's gonna stay, I just, hate for someone to come in and not have their, have the door be,
I'll check in store to make sure.
yeah, I mean, I know he discussed it with Rita and they have a plan in place, but I just wanna,
Yeah.
if I was gonna be here, I would have come in anyways, but now I'm not gonna be here, so I can't do that, but.
I do have one other, just comment, on our one and only ATV case, with, LeBaron. I have I'm not gonna talk numbers or anything, just give you an update that, I've got a conference call in with the attorney tomorrow, try to make that go away. John Frank,
Try to resolve it.
trying to resolve it.
Hey, you know what? We've done a lot of good work this past year with some of the abatement stuff, so,
Yeah, John Frank, our MAI, is going to be in on that conversation. He's done the work on it.
okay,
Okey-doke.
okay?
All right, now I think that was the last word, so having said that, meeting adjourned at 4:05.
So we set the